my pleasure to provide my business experience to help build capacity, provide access to capital for small firms, to help pass along business acumen, to provide connections for them to be able to grow. It is really my passion to be able to do this. I like to be able to teach and to nurture and to guide small businesses and to provide the experiences that I have and to be able to connect them with others who can pass along their experiences. There's been many late nights, weekends, taking calls on vacation, because this is my passion. It is my calling. It is what I do. And it is my pleasure to be able to continue to work with this. Many of the firms that I work with, whether they're small contractors, vendors, suppliers, I know their wives, their husbands, their kids. They share with me their challenges, and it is, I feel, my responsibility to assist them in any way that I can. I feel that this REACH program is a very comprehensive solution that will be able to help the small businesses and small contractors specifically get done what they need to do. In the OPS economic inclusion efforts, there are a lot of challenges. OPS and Jacobs have been very good in working with the contractors thus far. There have been some instances that have come up where the OPS staff, the Jacobs staff, have been really flexible, have helped contractors through a learning curve. They have really been facilitating and assisting small contractors in a way that I have not seen before throughout our institutional entities. And the REACH program is engaged in assisting OPS in obtaining those goals and helping those contractors. Some of our challenges right now are we have a very small number of small emerging businesses. Those businesses have very small capacities. Many of them lack access to capital, they have poor credit, and they also cannot receive bonding, which is a huge challenge in the contracting world. Overcoming those challenges, we have 4 opportunities. One is to grow that number of small emerging businesses, to educate them, provide education and technical assistance, to create access to capital for these firms, and to collaborate with a number of other entities to produce a solution that works across the board. The REACH program will be reaching out and specifically engaging with each and every one of the certified small and emerging businesses that wants to participate. We will be engaging them to find out what are their capacities, what are their specific skill sets, what is their largest job, do they have bonding, are they having challenges with access to capital. We will be able to compile this information, basically put together a quasi-statement of qualifications that will assist OPS and general contractors in identifying contractors that will be a better and more compatible match with the opportunities that they have available for them. There's a number of components to the REACH educational process. Many of them are on the screen there. There are some contractors that are just ready to go right now. We provide them an opportunity, we point them in a direction, off they go. But there is a vast majority of these small emerging contractors that need a wide array of services. And what we've done with the REACH program is kind of layered these. It's kind of a stair-stepping. So there are some folks that need credit remediation. We have credit remediation classes. That'll be one of the very first group sessions. But we've already worked with small contractors on an individual one-on-one basis to help remediate their credit. So once we get credit remediated and overcome some of those initial challenges, the next challenge is access to capital. We've put together a program with the Nebraska Enterprise Fund, where contractors that don't currently have access to capital because of credit or lack of collateral or whatever the case may be, they have access to a pool of funds. When they have access to a pool of funds, they then can float payrolls, they can purchase materials up front, which leads them to larger projects, and hopefully down the road to bonding larger projects. As a goal, a 5-year goal, the REACH program is looking to provide over 2,500 hours of one-on-one and group consultation to these small businesses. The REACH program is looking at tying what we're doing with students and student engagement, to be able to get students out to sites, to be able to bring professional speakers into classrooms, to find scholarship opportunities with our private sector who are looking to engage students and keep them engaged so in the future they may be employees of theirs here in Omaha as they're looking to develop their workforce. And so as the largest network of businesses, we see it as one of the things that we would be able to do to help facilitate those connections. We have a number of firms that have already come to us saying, we're not sure exactly how to do this or what to do, but we want to participate, and that is one of the assets that we bring to the table. So I've mentioned we've already created an access to credit with the new financial vehicle. Some firms can go to the bank. Some firms need SBA guarantee. Some firms will then have to go to microlenders. But there's a great pool of folks that just can't. And so with that, we are using a factoring method. And factoring is basically a contractor has a project, they've done work, they have an approved invoice, and they're using that as their collateral for a loan. In many cases, factoring is very expensive. All across the country, you can spend 80% interest, 120% interest on factoring. It's a very usury product. We, with Nebraska Enterprise Fund, have collaborated to provide a factoring product that is very user-friendly and is not a usury rate. In fact, it is a below-market rate to provide firms access to credit. We've already funded 6 firms that have worked on OPS projects for a total of $153,000. We are still working with firms that are putting in applications, and we will continue this. Again, we have a goal of providing 125 extensions of credit to firms that might not otherwise be able to get access to credit. So we talk about this, the REACH program, as being a collaborative effort. It is not just the chamber. The chamber could not and should not be the only one at the table here. We have engaged many firms, many service providers from all across the community, from the Juan Diego Center to Omaha Small Business Network to the Hispanic Chamber, to contractor groups in North Omaha and firms all across Omaha, SCORE, NBDC. All of these are entities that we are working with to provide joint education, to coordinate educational schedules, basically to work together. And many of the smaller entities, service providers, we are working with them as well to help them increase their capacities so that they will be able to better provide service to their constituents, and we provide a better, stronger ecosystem of service provision here in the Omaha market. We're looking to provide a number of services to the project owners, so OPS itself, outreach to many of these contractors to engage them, to let them know about the opportunities, get them involved, community engagement, general contractor education, so there's also an educational process that needs to take place with the general contractors, educating them as to how the economic inclusion plan is working and how they can utilize the tools of REACH and the services of Jacobs and OPS. And basically our engagement with your new economic inclusion department, which we have Carlos on board, and we are very happy to be working with him as we move forward. It's only when we work together as a whole, and all of these parts from all parts of Omaha are working together to leverage these resources, that we can really make an impact and a difference in the situation that we have with small and emerging businesses. One of the things that we will be very focused upon is reporting and transparency. So we will be able to tell you on a monthly basis who we're working with, what kinds of services are being requested across the board, contracts, who is, the value of bonding, the value of financing that we're able to get for firms that never had access to capital before. And we want to be working on a continual basis with the board, with the economic inclusion staff, to continually tweak and improve as we move forward. And in order to be able to do that, there has to be complete transparency in what we're doing and how we're doing and how we're interfacing with OPS and with Jacobs. So progress to date, and now this slide is a week old since it was submitted last week, and there have been a number of updates to it, but the first line, certifications. There are more firms involved in the being certified as a small and emerging business. When we started evaluating the process back in June, there was 187. Today, there's over 235. Now, the REACH program can't take credit for all of those. OPS, utilizing and pushing the certification process has been very instrumental in growing that number. The city's Human Rights and Relations Department has been very engaged. But as we have contractors coming to us, we have also been signing them up, as well as helping them complete paperwork to engage as a vendor with the Omaha Public Schools. We've done a number of outreaches to community groups, contracting groups, all across Omaha, North Omaha and South Omaha, West Omaha. We've been everywhere. And startups. So we have down here 4, but we've actually to date now assisted 6 firms in getting started. And technical assistance, we've had a group session which we participated, as well as 78 hours worth of one-on-one assistance, working with contractors, doing a triage, figuring out exactly what they need, how they need it, who we need to plug them into, getting them connected with procurement officers, getting started with, for the folks who are starting their business, everything from EIN numbers and just registrations to those people who are a little bit further along the line and getting them involved with procurement activities. And then also providing access to capital, and then also providing access to entities that can provide bonding for them. So one important thing is that the REACH program provides bond readiness. And with that bond readiness, it is everything leading up to being bonded. We do not provide bonding. We don't write bonding. We don't receive commissions for bond services. It is everything leading up to that, preparing them to be bonded, for them to choose from a list of all the entities in town that can provide bonding services and have them work directly with that bond agent. We will facilitate and engage wherever we are requested to do so, but the actual writing of bonds falls outside of our purview. With that, I have a couple of people. I understand the hour is late. We have a number of folks that would like to come up and very, very briefly talk a little bit about their experience with the Chamber, with business development, and how they've been assisted, and kind of give you a flavor for what you can expect from the REACH program as you move forward. Joe? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joseph Hodges, and I'm the owner of Lionsgate Security Corporation, and I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words, and I won't be very long. But I can just talk about my experience with the Chamber itself. Probably in about 2010, when my company first started, I just retired from the Omaha Police Department. I started my own security company, and we had 3 employees. At that time, I approached Wensley because we were told, well, as a small business, you should approach the Chamber because the Chamber has a lot for you. So we had people talking about, well, the Chamber's not done much for us, and we thought, well, you know what, we'll give it a chance and see. So we went to the Chamber and we met Wensley. That was my first time meeting Wensley. And I explained to him that we have a security company, we have 3 people, we're looking at growth, and we're looking at probably doing business with OPS eventually, because that's where our hearts were for the most part. So he gave us a list of things to do, because again, he didn't start our business for us, but he kind of gave us advice. So he sat down with us, and we weren't even members at the time. So without even being members, he sat down and talked to us. And he gave us ideas on what we wanted to do, what our personal views were, what our background was, and what direction we probably should take as far as our growth and where we wanted to go for the most part. Because at that time, we had a lot of ideas of what we could do, because we could do a lot, because we have an extensive background in military, law enforcement, and security. So there were a lot of things in front of us that we could actually do. So he kind of tried to narrow that down and try and focus us on a few things that we were probably stronger on. So he gave us a kind of a whole laundry list, probably about 15 things. So he said, okay, go ahead and work through this whole process, and when you get done, come back and see me. So he kind of had that look like, well, we'll probably never see these guys again, because once they see this list, they'll probably be overwhelmed. So a year later, I met Wensley on one of the chamber events. So I said, Wensley, you might want to kind of meet with me. I have some good news for you, right? He goes, oh, okay, whatever. I said, seriously. I said, we have about 25 employees right now, right? He said, really? Yeah. So we met with him, and I explained to him that I know that when you gave us that list of things to do, you probably thought we'd probably go away and never come back again. And it was a very extensive list, and it was a very expensive list as well. So keeping in mind that we had to come up with a lot of our own personal funds to start this business, and I would say thousands of dollars, okay? So again, we needed the guidance because we didn't know what to do, and we put our own personal funds, our own retirement funds into this business. So we eventually grew to now we have about probably 125 employees. And if you all came through the downstairs doors, you probably see my company downstairs. So what I can say is that the chamber allowed us to network with other businesses. And people talk about access to businesses, and we just thought that why not network with the company that, or the entity that has most of the networks involved. So we got involved, and they gave us access. And we even got an award for Emerging Minority Business of the Year 2 years ago. We were actually nominated, but we didn't win, but we were one of 3 nominations. That was after only 3.5 years in business. So whenever we got awards or wherever we accomplished things, David Brown always called us and always talked to us and said, hey, I appreciate what you guys are doing, and we think you guys are doing a great job. So the leader of the chamber always was aware and always had a pulse on what we were doing, and we felt that, I mean, they knew us. I mean, out of all the thousands of businesses that were involved in the chamber, they knew who we were, and they probably still kind of watch us and watch our growth right now. So what I can say is, as far as the chamber is concerned, it gave us an opportunity to connect with other businesses and got exposed by other businesses as well. So I can't say they started our business, but they were instrumental in helping us grow and directing us and guiding us to being to the point that we are the security company for OPS. And I don't think OPS brags enough about that. That's just me. Okay? Thank you for your time. Any questions for me down here? Yes.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So this was prior to REACH?
Yes.
Okay.
So I can't speak for REACH, but I can just speak with my experience with the chamber in general and my experience with Wensley as well.
Thank you.
Who was to me the chamber at the time. Thank you.
I'm Dave Kolak, K-O-L-U-C-H. I'm president of KNS. We're located at 2609 South 156th Circle. I've worked with Wensley for years as well at the chamber. Wensley has helped me with a bunch of things, bonding, and the thing I like about Wensley and working with the chamber is they don't do bonding, they don't have insurance, so they put you in touch with companies so you can get competitive bid. There's no conflict of interest, and it's all above board. We have, through Wensley, he introduced us to a finance company which allowed us to get an additional $100,000 line of credit on top of what we had, so we can go after projects and fund projects for OPS, which we do quite a bit. Wensley, since the REACH program has just recently started, we've been involved with that as well. Just recently, we just had a meeting with marketing firms that Wensley brought in to help companies like myself with marketing brochures and help market us into different aspects and different customers. And working with Wensley is not just him. He has a network. You work with all these companies. He knows a lot of people. How many times I've called Wensley and asked a question, whether it was, hey, I want to build a building. Hey, here's some areas in North Omaha. walks me through the process of that. We put budgets together, looked at those options, all kinds of different questions you ask him, but he has a network of folks that you can ask any question for, and he can give you guidance to talk to people, find out what you need to do what you have to do to grow your business. So we're looking forward to working with REACH. We've since then, we just obtained a couple contracts with OPS and the Emerging Small Business. We're doing some designs on special systems for a couple of the schools. We just finished with the Ponca portables with some of the other folks you'll hear from, which was a successful project. And we look forward to doing more with OPS and Jacobs through the REACH program. Thanks. If you have any questions.
I'll try to keep this much shorter. I like to think business. Jim Reif with Nebraska Enterprise Fund. We have an office down 1516 Cummings Street. We're a CDFI, Certified Development Finance Institution. We've been working across the state of Nebraska for the last 21 years. Last year, we dispersed about $2 million of loans. About 47% of those loans were to minority, traditionally disadvantaged business folks. We're working with REACH because we believe this fits our mission. It brings us closer to reaching out to small and emerging businesses, which is what our focus is. Why do we do that? We do that because we believe that's building our communities, building the opportunity for economic development, economic equality, as well as giving what traditionally has been low to moderate income families the opportunity to either own their own business or work for business and grow bigger. So we're very happy to be with REACH. We're very happy to be serving Nebraska in general and Omaha as well. So I'll take any questions if there are. If not, I'll step back.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of me or about the REACH program? Yes.
Mr. Stone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you, Madam President. So OPS, to your slide number 10, there's like a bubble, like a spider web thing of all the businesses or entities. How many of those entities, or what entities do you currently have agreements or contracts with the REACH program?
So there's a number of these entities, such as like the Juan Diego Center, Hispanic Chamber, Omaha Small Business Network, are all entities, SCORE, REACH, NBDC. These are all folks that we are collaboratively working with together, where we have come together and said, our missions align, we wish to work together, we are voluntarily coming together and doing joint education sessions and just being collaborative in general. There are other entities, so Metropolitan Community College, City of Omaha, UNMC, OPS, are all entities that a number of months ago came together and said, we wish to work together. We want to form a collaborative organization and move forward in providing services to enhance the small and emerging business community.
And with that said, how much does a program like REACH cost?
So right now, we've got a budget of a little over $450,000 of costs to run the program annually.
And that would have to be dispersed amongst all those entities if they want to enter agreement or contract with REACH? Like if OPS wants to be a part of it, OPS is going to have to pay to be
yes.
part of REACH.
Yes,
Is there a price?
as institutional entity partners, there is a cost for the provision of services and the access to the information and services that we will be providing, correct?
Is there a cost already that you think for OPS since you're, I mean, obviously you're, Dr. Turnquist, would you be able to answer that?
Yes, that cost has not been determined yet, Mr. Snow.
Okay. And I was a little confused, if you can explain, so you're the new director of, EID director, how's that going to work if they're going to be working with the REACH program? I mean,
Very good question.
if you can explain that,
Absolutely. So OPS, City of Omaha, both have taken the bold initiative to have a Director of Economic Inclusion. And that Director of Economic Inclusion works on all the internal processes, how OPS and Jacobs, whether it's the purchasing department or facilities or the new bond issue stuff, how all of those work with the economic inclusion program. So internal processes, and the REACH program is everything external. So we are the educational component, we are technical assistants, all of the things that internally that OPS, we're all the things on the outside providing those things for those small contractors that will be working with OPS, where the economic inclusion person works on everything internal.
And my last question with that, so this might, it's not directed at you, but directed more towards the district. Is it fair that we're already collaborating with the REACH program and the new position that they're going to be soliciting business from us eventually to be part of this team? Is it fair to say that we should look at other entities to see if any other people or entities in the country or city do things like this? Or do we say we're going to go ahead and work with REACH? And I mean, to me, it just sounds kind of confusing, especially that, I mean, the chamber plays a big role in this town, and
No, that's a very good
soliciting
question.
the business like that, that's,
Yes, and the memorandum of understanding that would occur between OPS and REACH is still under legal review on our side. We did indicate that we wanted a clause in any such memorandum that OPS retains the right to partner with any other entities as well, or any other service providers, as we see that it will assist us in the OPS program.
well, that's good to start with, because I don't want us to have our EID director starting off already with their hands tied, that they have to work with REACH. I'm just saying in general, any program, I would say the same thing, so, that's all for me.
So I just want to get clarification. When you talk about external services, I know you talked about the financing piece, the technical aspect of getting folks set up with EIN numbers and all of the financial reporting that's required for running a business. But I think I heard through the process that you don't do the bonding or the insurance piece. Is that correct?
Correct. Those are licensed professionals that we, as the REACH program, can assist in all things leading up to that and understand the underwriting process of it, but we are not licensed insurance professionals, cannot place insurance, and therefore also cannot receive any commissions or any other compensation for bonding or insurance.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Other questions? Mr. Wayne?
So I listened to the answer you provided, Mark, on slide 10. So you do not currently have contracts with anybody on that slide?
We have many contracts and memorandums of understanding that are under review at this moment. We anticipate that before the end of this week, we will have at least a couple of those back in our office.
So right now, we have a partnership in which you're providing technical services to some of our contractors. Where does that liability lie? Because you haven't been in construction long enough unless you've been sued, is what one of my mentors tells me. So we had somebody come before the board talk about somebody owes money. Right now, we're operating in a partnership, but we haven't defined liability in a contract. Is that correct?
I am no attorney, but my assumption would be at this point that if there is no official contract, that anything that is liability on the part of the REACH program is the REACH program's liability.
So
I don't know if I'm necessarily qualified to answer your
right,
question.
I understand. And as an attorney, I set up E&Ns and businesses but I don't give tax advice, and I make sure people sign off on that. My concern is as we do technical services, or as you perform technical services, and we're in a partnership with OPS, and this would be my concern with anybody who came before the board, and the board's heard me say this before, if we don't have a contract defining where that liability is, then right now, when you're sitting in meetings as a consultant or a partnership with OPS and you're giving advice to businesses, we could be held liable.
Well, we have a disclaimer, and listening to some of your previous board meetings, we have taken some of those things into account. So as of last week, the conversation about debarment. So we now have a question that is on our REACH participation agreement that is about debarment, because we are wanting to make sure that we are in step with OPS and its philosophies.
Explain that debarment question. What do you mean?
So
by
it
that?
just asks, are you a company that has been previously debarred? So it was a topic of discussion that was here that was obviously important to OPS. It is something that is being investigated by the City of Omaha. So as two entities that are looking to collaborate with the REACH program, we are looking to also make sure that we are obtaining all information that might be needed or required of these contractors. We have, so as we're moving forward, we will have all participants who are receiving services, whether it is from a REACH employee directly, or for any assigned thereof, whether it is a professional services person that is volunteering their time, that there will be a disclaimer which will release from harm and hold harmless OPS and all entities that are REACH owners, as we call them.
But right now, you can't do that because you don't have an agreement with us to give you the authority to
And
give us that.
therefore, I believe you have no liability.
Well, not necessarily, because we don't have nothing that says that we're not liable. So I'm concerned about the technical services. And then the next part I have is, I know we're talking about our RFQ, and this is more, I guess, more directed to Dr. Turnquist. Is this outside of the RFQ? Because the program there, at least all the services they provide on page, 7, seems to cover everything that we were talking about having in the RFQ.
Well, I think the REACH program does cover some things that are not in the RFQ. For example, the access to funding. That's not something that would be in our RFQ. The creation of a real-time database that continuously updates the Tier 1, Tier 2 certified contractors would not be in our RFQ. So our RFQ would access those kinds of services similar to what we've had in the past, except there are some tweaks to it because our program has grown so much. But there are things in the REACH program that go beyond what we would normally seek in a limited service provider.
I guess what would those be for the record, besides the...
Well, as I said, access to funding, joint checks, those kinds of things. We wouldn't do that, and we wouldn't ask another private provider to do that.
Okay. And the reason I'm harping on this liability is because somebody came up and talked today about it. And so I would like at least that issue to be resolved before we have a lawsuit naming everybody, because we don't have an agreement. I'm just slightly confused if there's going to be duplications of services. Because again, I'm looking at this list on what they provide, but last couple meetings ago, you said REACH is going to be outside the RFQ, but they literally provide everything, because REACH is going to have a list that updates every day for the Tier 1, Tier 2s, because they're engaged in that particular service for everybody. So I'm fearful we're going to duplicate services if we do an RFQ and we do a no bid contract to REACH.
As I said, I think there's some things in the REACH program that go beyond anything we would have in the RFQ, which would be a little bit more focused. And as far as liability is concerned, and that's one reason that the memorandum of understanding is under legal review with our folks now, because we would make certain that there is indemnification in there.
Well, then isn't it safe to say that from this board meeting forward until that contract review, REACH and any other program saying they're partnering with OPS, I don't care if it's after-school program, if there's not a contract in place, we shouldn't be publicly saying there's a joint partnership without a contract. Is that
I
fair?
think you're correct. You're correct. It's fair to say there is no official agreement there yet.
So I guess I would ask staff to, finalize the contract until the contract is finalized, that we kind of stop this partnership until there's actual partnership, because I think if we've only had one project, I don't know what they said is true or not, I haven't verified any complaints, but if somebody's saying they got 7 complaints about how this is working already, I just think we need to be mindful of how we get it done, and that we have contracts in place, all the requirements in place before people step foot on property, which was brought up in that, which is another issue that I'm kind of really concerned about. But more importantly, that we're not telling people that there's projects or partnerships until it's in place.
And I think you're correct, Mr. Wayne. We are not directing any contractors to REACH at this time, but we can't stop someone from asking the chamber for advice. So that would be a whole separate issue. But I think you're right. And our intention here was to give you this as an information item to review that memorandum of understanding, and then to bring it back to the board for its decision as an action item.
Right, and I guess what it's not my place to tell Mr. Durant to not do that. I'm just saying, I don't want there to be any confusion on what we're doing. And that's all I'm trying to say, is that
Correct.
I just don't want confusion.
And we're not going to ask REACH to act on our behalf in any regard at this time. But we would not tell small contractors, don't ask the chamber for advice on things, because if they want help there and they can get some good advice, that's their business.
Absolutely. We've had other issues where people sometimes say they're acting on our behalf, and I just want to make sure we don't run down that path again. But I've talked to Winsley numerous times, and I'm not discounting what he's doing. I'm just saying, from a board's perspective, we just need to make sure we have contracts in place.
And I think, too, whether or not the public comment was directly related to, we don't know that the complaints were specifically related to an OPS REACH issue, I think. Some of them may have been, some of them may not have been. We don't have the facts on that, so I think we can't really speak to that. Mr. Snow, and then we'll wait. Is there anyone else who has a question before Mr. Snow? Okay, Mr. Snow.
Just a clarification. So I know for a lot of organizations that wanted to partner with us, it all got stopped with letter of intent. Does the REACH program in the chamber need a letter of intent, or is it outside of some?
So I think this is a legal piece that is a memorandum of understanding. The letter of intent was, and we talked about it in our policy committee meeting, specifically was developed and related to situations where entities were engaging with either our instructional practices, our students, our student data, and those types of activities. And so that was how it came to be, and the policy committee is actually we've actually had a pretty healthy conversation on how to separate out those activities that relate to student achievement and student data and instructional pieces versus construction projects, and then versus, obviously, these are other types of legal things.
And thank you for that. And with that, I don't know, I just remembered when we required those foundations to get it, I know a lot of them were not so happy or thrilled. They thought of it the same way, that it was coming as a private project, that until that policy committee and until it comes in front of the board and changes officially, shouldn't they be required to?
But
Just to
they're in a vendor situation, so we don't ask all of our vendors to do.
So they'll be in a vendor capacity, not in a partnership capacity, like collaboration.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Mrs.
I don't
Fay.
know, explain that to me.
Yeah, I'm confused on that too, because I don't necessarily see the difference between this partnership and the one that the Central High Foundation brought up, which is not directly tied to student data. Just a minute. And then there's also there is an educational component to this because it's right on slide 7, educational ties to students. So, and I had the same question about duplication of services because there's so many. I understand that there are things that Tony pointed out that will be outside the RFQ, but that implies that there are things that overlap as well. I mean, that was sort of what you left implied, but then there's also the things, I heard some things described in this presentation that I think Jacobs is doing specifically with with contractors that want to work with the district. I understand your vision is bigger than just OPS projects, but as a board member here, I'm just concerned about OPS projects. And then, currently we have a contract, a month-to-month agreement with Dick Davis. So there's a lot, it all seems a little murky to me. I want to make sure before anything is decided that I'm really, and I appreciate you coming and sitting down and talking with me at my office. I thought that was great. And so I feel like I understand REACH. What I don't understand as a board member is how where the overlap is and how we can be fiscally responsible or make fiscally responsible decisions regarding a minimum of 3 different things that we're paying for that all have to do with economic inclusion, which is what's already included in our Jacobs contract, our own economic inclusion efforts within the district, which we now have a full-time employee for, and then whatever outside agreement that we have. So, which currently is $6,365 a month with David. So, I need clarification on that before any decision is made, because again, there just seems to be overlap. And then, so duplication of services, letter of intent, I agree with Mr. Snow on that. I think that that's sort of a gray area that until we really clarify that policy, I think we should stick to what we've required from other groups that have come before us. And then I did have a concern. I have heard a number batted around, and I think that we actually had that discussion when you came and visited me with a number, and then you're telling me that that dollar figure hasn't been determined. I'm hoping that because the memorandum of understanding is in legal, that maybe we're trying to negotiate that down. So that would be great before it becomes public and we have to vote on it. So that would be another question I would have. And then I guess well, I'm going to leave it at that for now. Thank you.
So several things. So you're right, we haven't finished up the policy on that. We have found some additional policy information on construction projects. So the Central High Foundation, Burke High School, South High School, we haven't had them do the letter of intent. Our policy committee is trying to determine the policies that are currently on the books and make sure that we're applying them the way they should be applied. I think it might be helpful when the district brings this back clearly based on Mrs. Fay's questions, what services are being provided. Is the Davis contract for bonding services? What's Jacobs providing to us? What would REACH provide to us? And then we have our own economic inclusion director. And so what is the total cost of all of these items if you put them all together that the district is expending, or you would project for us to expend? And so I guess that would be probably really helpful from a board perspective to see what the services are that are provided when you all come back, and what the costs are, so that we can actually understand that better and what has been negotiated. So is that helpful?
And there may be some entities involved in the REACH program who would use more of the components of the REACH program than would we, because we already are at the forefront of an economic inclusion plan. And if you look at, let's say, Davis companies, they do provide bonding and insurance, which REACH does not. So we certainly can break that down and clarify it more, which we would do definitely before we brought it back as an action item.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right, good. Well,
I do have a question.
Okay.
How long has the contract been in review?
We've looked at more than 2 iterations of it, so we're looking at now another revised version.
Time frame?
Oh, I don't know when we started with it. It was some time ago, because the first one was not acceptable. I don't remember. Do you remember when?
I do not.
The first one?
That raises a different concern. I did not know about this. If we have contracts in review, I don't think we should be meeting with vendors while a contract is in review. We've never done that before. So let's just be mindful that you might cause a conflict there.
okay, so noted. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing more information
Thank
with
you.
us so we can have a better understanding. Really appreciate that. With that, we're going to move on to J2A, first reading of the 6,000 series policies. I did ask, and I think at everybody's desk, there is a set of revisions. So this came to us one time already, and I think we'd all reviewed the policies. And then there was a request to ask for OEA to take a look at any questions that they had. So Mr. Ray has put together a little list of highlighted items. I also asked for all changes that have been made, and I know Mrs. Fay had some changes requested, and I had some changes requested. So those are all noted in red. There aren't a significant number. Mrs. Neelis-Brush, can you tell us if OEA had any specific changes when you went to them?
They had 2 requests, one policy which is not in front of you tonight because we're still working just through language back and forth.
Okay.
And that's 6112. So you will not see that in the inclusion. That will come hopefully at the next meeting. We'll be able to work through that conversation, just haven't been able to touch base on that. And then there was a policy, and I'm trying to find it here, with regard to secretarian instruction with regard to religious instruction. And they just had we had some conversation about that and added here 6362. We added some language just to make it more clear with regard to that. And it doesn't look like it's not that, it's not the
6362?
most updated
No.
one. I would actually, Madam President, recommend removal 6362 as listed currently here, because that is not the most current version. We can get that on with 6112.
So 6302 and 6212?
6112 is not in front of you.
Okay.
But 6362 is, and it's not the most current version.
Oh, 6362. Okay, so when we approve, we'll approve the 6,000 series without those 2 policies included, so that we don't appear to be approving something that isn't in front of us. Does anyone have any questions on the changes or any other questions for the 6,000 series that's in front of us? No? Okay, so at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the first reading of the 6,000 policy series, excluding 6362 and 6112. Right. But I want to make sure, since we're approving the 6,000 series.
Then do we need to have that?
And the 6,400 section. Ms. Merica?
I move to approve the first reading of the 6,000 policy series with the exception of 6112, 6362, and 6400.
Scratchy notes. So motion by Ms. Merica. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Mrs. Fay. So there's a motion to approve the first reading of the 6,000 policy series, excluding 6112, 6362, and the 6400 section. Are there any other comments? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Snow.
Aye.
Underwood.
Aye.
Wayne.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
Gadding.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Scanlon. Aye. 7 aye.
Motion carries. With that, we move on to J2B, first reading of 4380 employee medical health and dental insurance. Mrs. Neelis Brush.
Before you, Madam President, this evening, and Omaha Board of Education members, Superintendent Evans, we have 4380, which is the Employee Medical Health and Dental Insurance Policy. After having discussions with OSAA with regard to update, we have to update our policy in order to effectively change other bargaining unit group, or non-negotiated bargaining unit groups. And so with that, we provide in front of you this evening the old 5.3H, which had a lot more specificity in the policy, and any changes in health insurance for other members of the district require a significant amount of revision to the policy. As you can see, previously it was very specific with regard to the levels and the amounts for everybody else. It also had the 60% difference after you looked for a dependent group health plan for your family, your two-party and your four-party insurance, and had a lot of old references in it. So after taking a look at that, we decided it would be cleaner and easier to present to all our employees a policy that was a little bit more straightforward, and it basically says that healthcare insurance coverage is available to all full-time employees regularly scheduled to work at least 30 hours per week after the 30 days of employment with the district. And so it pretty much goes through that. We also presented this policy to OEA so that they had input in the policy, and as you will mention, it does talk about that whatever plan, and that doesn't mean the specific amounts, that just means if we have EHA health insurance for the teachers, that group insurance would be offered to other employees as part of the district. So that's what the health insurance policy and dental insurance policy reads. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions on this particular policy? Mr. Wayne?
So are we changing benefits? Is this, when we implement this plan, are we going to change benefits?
Correct, yes.
So
We're slowly aligning all the groups to the benefits that we've had with regard to the teacher group.
and when would this different benefit take place?
Once it's passed by the Board of Education.
Okay, so we're in school year, and won't that require open enrollment?
Yes.
How much is that going to cost us? As far as staff time, and dollar amounts?
We would have significant amounts of open enrollment at all times throughout the year. I think under the new PPACA rule, we have to have open enrollment at the beginning of the year, so I don't think, I don't know specifically what the amounts would be to have additional costs, but I don't think that they would be substantial in any regard because we have open enrollment. We had an open enrollment at the beginning of this plan year.
My understanding was open enrollment is usually in November or January, but it's a set period for most of it. We've already did open enrollment, and so right in the school year, you're asking us to change policy and start another open enrollment? And we don't know the cost of it? That concerns me. Where would we find the money to do the open enrollment when we already set our budget and we were told it was very tight?
The plan with regard to the administrators is to take the 4 years, and this would also be effective for the non-negotiated group. Those employees, 4 years and more, would see the reduction in health insurance, so we would see a savings throughout the year when we're reducing the health insurance amount, so that they, as an employee, would pay more, and we, as an employer, would pay less for that health insurance coverage. Then in the second year, they would talk about moving those people in the first 3 years onto the plan.
I guess, what is the savings for this year versus the cost of a new open enrollment and the cost of our employees of going through open enrollment during the school year? And I think it'll be right around during the time of quarter grades. Like, what is the benefit of doing it now? What is the cost versus waiting till next year the open enrollment starts where it's just a smooth transition for everybody? There's got to be an additional cost.
We haven't analyzed that, but we can get that for you. I would hate to throw a number out without looking at it first.
Okay, and it says that I believe employee participation shall be mandated. How are we going to mandate when we're not paying the full amount anymore?
I'm sorry, where are you reading that?
I thought I saw it in there where it says participation by a full-time employee after 30-day calendar shall be mandatory. Paragraph A, first paragraph. Can we actually mandate everybody when we're requiring them to pay? The current, I'm sorry. Why do I have 3 of them up? Okay, the one without. It's still there. It says participation in, and so before it was okay because we were paying 100%. Now I'm saying, how do we make it mandatory if we're requiring them to pay?
It would be the board's pleasure if you want to take that language out. That's the language that was in there previously, and we required anybody to participate in our health insurance plan with regard to the 100% coverage. So, that's the board's pleasure. If the board would like to take that language out, the board can take that language out.
Is legally that okay? That's my question, I guess, more importantly, is I just don't know if we can mandate somebody to pay for a benefit if they can't afford to pay for it or choose not to.
I believe we can, but I can get that question answered for sure.
Sorry.
Under PPACA, if they choose not to participate, they have to provide proof of coverage or they're taxed.
Right.
So we can mandate coverage through that.
Well, under PACA though, that tax falls on them, so they can still opt out. We can't mandate them.
And again, that's at the board's discretion what they pull out, but we can say that they're participants. That way we're not taxed and we don't suffer the penalty for not providing that insurance for them. Because we would suffer penalties as well.
If we don't provide it, but we are providing it, but we're saying you have to participate, and that's not true. The individual underneath the last law change is taxed, not the corporation. As long as you provide it and they choose not to, that penalty doesn't fall on us. So we're mandating something that I don't think we necessarily legally can, but I'm more concerned about the cost.
I don't believe that's the case, but we'll double check that on for you, Justin.
Well, I would move that we table it till next meeting.
certainly
see.
bring
Are
back
you
all that
asking that to be
Absolutely, we can certainly
postponed?
bring back all that
Postponed?
documentation.
Table would be in 2
Postpone,
seconds.
correct,
Postponed,
postpone.
okay. And then, so you're making, it. So you just made a...
Yes, and I'll talk afterwards why.
Okay, so there's a motion to postpone this item until the next meeting. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Mrs. Fay. All right, discussion.
Real quick,
Mr. Wayne, and then
the
I...
only reason why I bring this up is at our last EHA meeting, there was a lot of discussion about mandatory, what's not mandatory, all these changes in the law, Xerox copy certified, and so when this came across, as I was sitting here reading it, the word mandatory popped out because I remember having this long, detailed conversation, and school districts across the state are hiring consultants to comply with ACA, and they're having all these problems, and I just don't want to pass a policy where we might have some problems. And it was like literally a 2-hour discussion.
Okay, and then I have a question.
Sure.
So this change is being made because of some of the negotiated agreements we're going through right now, correct? What does that do? What is the
Non-negotiated.
The
Yeah.
non-negotiated?
Yes.
I'm sorry. So what does that do to the non-negotiated that we don't have finalized yet?
So we'll continue to pay the portions that we do and continue with regard to the expense of paying those additional portions of health insurance coverage. It would, as the longer it takes to pass it, the more expense we will incur with regard to those portions that the groups have been discussed and we've agreed to.
And the groups have agreed to those changes, correct? Okay, just wanted to make sure that we were all clear on that. All right, Mr. Scanlon.
I would just ask that the district also provide, obviously ACA is very confusing, it depends on what your entity is, and I know that you can, if the coverage or the health insurance that we provide is greater than, I think it's 9% of their, of a person's salary, then they can go qualify to, and they choose to go to an exchange, then OPS would be liable potentially. So I'd just like to get information on where we stand with that and kind of what is OPS's liability for what we are providing and for the for those employees that it does, their participation is greater than 9%. What kind of numbers are we looking at within the district, and just get an idea of where we stand as we move forward with the ACA requirements.
So I have a question, since you brought that up. So does that mean, and I'm looking kind of at Charles, if we say it's mandatory, that it precludes from that happening? It does not preclude from that happening?
The slang is sledgehammer penalty. We don't provide, we get hit with a multi-million-dollar penalty for not providing insurance for eligible employees. The other version of that, and what Mr. Scanlon's talking about, is a tack hammer penalty, and that comes on affordability. If we're providing coverage, but the cost to the employer that coverage is over a certain percentage of their annual income, it's no longer affordable. So then we're hit with a different penalty for not providing affordable coverage, and that's by employee. The sledgehammer penalty, the big penalty, is organization-wide. So if we don't provide coverage like we should, we get penalized for every employee in the organization, whether we covered them or not. The tack hammer, the smaller penalty for not providing affordable, is per employee.
And I just, based on the fact that we pay for 98%, if and I know that there's different levels of coverage, and I want to speak more specifically and provide you the specific data that you're asking for, but generally, I do believe they call different levels of coverage: gold coverage, bronze coverage, and silver coverage, and our particular coverage is sort of between silver and gold, so it definitely is significantly sufficient as far as I'm understanding under PPACA, but we can provide you that information so you can completely and clearly understand it. But that is my recollection that with regard to the EHA health insurance that we provide for the district.
Great, okay. I think now we're ready for roll call.
Underwood.
Aye.
Wayne.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
Goding.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Scanlon. Aye. Snow.
Aye.
7 aye.
Motion carries. Under K, I just want to call to your attention the Purchasing Division report that is given every year on cost savings, and then the ESU board minutes as well. And with that, Ms. Merica.
I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, legal counsel, Connie Knoke, discussion regarding deployment of security personnel or devices, pending litigation, and contract negotiations.
Is there a second?
Second.
So motion by Ms. Merica, second by Mrs. Underwood. Roll call, please.
Wayne. Fay.
Aye.
Gadding.
Aye.
Merica.
Aye.
Scanlon.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Underwood.
Aye.
7-9.
Motion carries. Let me remind the board that the purpose for closed session is for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals, to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel, and Connie Knoke, discussion regarding deployment of security personnel or devices, pending litigation, and contract negotiations. Let the record reflect that the board went into closed session at 10:10 p.m.